Well, now wait a minute, Jer. What's the big deal about that?
Well, Rick, the big deal about that is I'm not trying to get people to go and verify my on-hand. I'm trying to get them to go back to the bin and actually tell me how many are there. I want to verify that after the fact, after they count. I don't want them just saying, oh yeah, there's 50 there, because I don't have time to count them right now. I want them to actually tell me and count them that there's 50. Okay? You tell me how many are there, then I'll see if that matches up with what's in the computer.
So on CDK, the RBB is not going to do the job for us, so we have to build our own reports. And this is the printout of one. Jer, why don't you walk through that one real quick?
Well, you can easily set these up in RPG, report generator. You can use the enhanced report generator, whatever you're comfortable with. But the whole idea is I really don't need a lot of information on the count sheet. I need to know the bin location, obviously. The sourcing probably helps quite a bit. And then I got to have part number, description. I put the cost on there because I want them to have some kind of an idea of how big the part might be, and the cost generally gives me an idea of how big that part might be. So other than that, that's all they need. And on the far right, put in something where they can put their count. And all they got to do is put their count there on the far right side, and then I would have them initial the sheet saying who counted it.
And then what happens, Jer?
Well, once I have that done, I can set up a report the same way. I have the same format, I have the same sorting. All I do is throw an on-hand output field on the end, so now I can just run that sheet, put the two sheets side by side, match them up, worry about the discrepancies. If the counts match, move on. If there's a discrepancy, somebody needs to go back and recount that, or take a look around and figure out whether we're short, over, or what, and why. You can use PDA to help you find out some of those reasons. It could have been a scanning error, a receiving error, could be anything, but I would track it down. Any discrepancy needs to be tracked down and corrected.
So what if you find a part in the bin that's not on the sheet?
Well, that's obviously what we would call a write-in, Rick. So I need to write that down, put it on there, put the quantity down, and then let somebody with the verification process figure out why it's in the wrong location or why the location on the computer system is incorrect.
And that one we want to fix immediately, no questions asked, so we can go find the part and then verify the quantity in both of those bin locations and clean that up as quickly as we can. The problem with putting the bin sheets together, and now I have my count sheet and I have my computer sheet with the on-hand quantity. Do I have to do anything with that immediately?
I would definitely be checking those out as soon as the sheets are turned in. The key is if you print the verification sheet at the same time the sheet is turned in, then I've got, an accurate reflection of at this point in time. If there's a discrepancy, I don't necessarily have to do it immediately, because I know that I'm going to recount that number anyway.
Well, and that's true, and by doing those sheets, the timing of those sheets, I touched all these parts at 12:07, and I reprinted my on-hand quantities at 12:10. So that moment in time locks those two together, and in theory, I could just throw them on the desk and not mess with them for a while, a couple days, whatever, and they will still be accurate as of that moment, and that's what we're looking for. And in fact, I like to have guys just kind of wait on some of that stuff 2-3 days, because I've seen many times where I've got parts in the back that aren't put away yet, and if I make a correction too soon, my stock clerk comes in, puts those parts away. Now I'm off because I corrected and didn't realize I already had the parts in the building. Or I've taken a part up to the counter to show a technician, or I've got one by my desk and somebody's on the phone and I'm trying to describe it, and those parts don't get put away. So a perpetual, unlike a regular physical, we don't stop and do all the housekeeping and move all those parts and make sure everything's just right. It's kind of it's a live inventory. So to me, if I wait a couple of days, I can figure out whatever that lag was, they put the part away and it's back on the shelf and everybody's ready to go here.
Some of those will sort themselves out.
They will, and that's the point. And if I fix it before it sorts itself out, now I've just unfixed it, basically.
Right.
So, but there has to be a process where to me, the parts manager or a trusted second person are the only people that can make the final adjustments. We get everybody to count, we get everybody to turn in their count sheets, but when it comes to, we do the research, we figure out what happened with that part, and now we're going to adjust our inventory. It says we have 3, I can only find 1, so I'm going to pull 2 out of my inventory by adjusting that. Well, I want that done by either a parts manager or a trusted second person, and not just let the counter person do that. So there's a process that goes with it. The other thing we like to do is have you hang on to your count sheets, so that when we come and visit you, or if an auditor happens to come in, we can show when the parts were counted, what kind of counts we got, and if there's ever a problem with a particular part, especially some high dollar parts, electronics or whatever, sometimes we can go back and we can see the condition of that particular part on a certain day, and that helps because it's all detective work from here on in. And that's the kind of stuff this guy's real good at. So, but it takes time, and it's important that we get everything accurate so that when we get to that day of physical inventory on the whole building, then it's a real easy count because we've already been there 4 times in the year. We've touched every part, everything's clean, the bin locations are there. I've got a few that I'm going to have variances on, but otherwise it's just let's count and move on, and there's no confusion and problems with making this thing happen. So, Jer, if we're in the rentals and rentals world, they've got this job 2241, and 2241 is pretty much like this RBB, where you can set it up. You got a lot of different options, but the one option that they do give you is, do I want quantity on hand or not? And so first sheet for the count, I say no, come right back, do the second sheet after they get it counted, turn it in, I say yes, and now I've got my comparison process in place. Or if you want to build your own, what do we do here, Jer?
Well, you can use 6910 on the rental side, and you can build a custom report. And again, I like building the custom report because I'm telling it what the output fields are going to be. I'm going to tell it how to sort it and what sequence. So again, then you would just have 2 different setups in 6910, one with the quantity on hand and one without the quantity on hand. Obviously, the without the quantity on hand becomes my count sheet, and then for verification purposes, I'm going to print off the one with the quantity on hand when those sheets are turned in. Again, at the same time they're turned in, I just got done counting, print off the verification sheet, lock the 2 together, and you've got a perfect match, okay? Now I worry about the variances. Everything else is all done. If there's a variance, a discrepancy in any way, we're going to check that out later on. We don't have to do it immediately, like you said. You can do it a day later, you can do it a couple hours later, whatever, but you know, some of those things will settle out, but now I've got those 2 married together, and I have all I need to correct.